What up, B Squad? It is your boy JB, and I am here today with the review for Love and Marriage Huntsville Season 6, Episode number 12, you guys. This episode is titled, We Got a Monster Issue, you guys. Now, before we go ahead and get into this review, if you guys are watching this video or any other video on the channel and you guys aren't subscribed yet, then do me a solid favor, you guys, and stop taking me out on this date and having me pay for it at the end of it. You guys know the routine. You can do me that favor by liking the video, subscribing to the channel, and also by turning on your post notifications. And with that out of the way, you guys, without further ado, let us go ahead and discuss Love and Marriage Huntsville, shall we? All right, you guys, so before we go ahead and get into this review, if you guys are watching this, do me a solid favor and please go check out the live review that I did of Love and Marriage Detroit. So yeah, Detroit is going to be something that I think I want to talk about live, and so I might do Detroit and DC live. Those might be live videos. We'll think about that. But this episode, we opened up where the last one left off with Stormy. So I will say in this episode, I didn't really watch any of Stormy's scenes. This scene or the last one that she had with her and Courtney, where they were talking about business, having to fire people, and they were talking about the situation with her mom and her aunt Lisa. So everybody was so up in arms about getting Miss Wanda off this show, and we don't have Miss Wanda this season, right? But we got Miss Betty, and Miss Betty ain't no better than Miss Wanda. Miss Betty is Miss Wanda 2.0. So I know Stormy wanted to facilitate peace between her mom and her aunt, right? But when your mama is disrespectful, Stormy, no shade, no tea, right? Your mom is a disrespectful ass person, right? And I don't blame your aunt Lisa for saying fuck your mama, right? And I whoop her ass, because I really truly didn't blame your aunt. And then you talking about go hug your mom, you telling your mama to go hug her sister, and she's like, how the fuck I'm gonna hug somebody who's walking away? You can, the same way you walked out that house and walk down here, there's the same way you can walk up to your sister and hug on your sister and love on your sister. Easy, huh? You just don't want to do it. And that's fine, but don't sit here and pretend like, how the fuck am I supposed to hug somebody that's walking away from me? Lady, you got 2 working legs. Go hug her. Let me know in the comment section what you guys think of that, right? And also let me know, who do you guys prefer? Well, Miss Betty ain't talked about the kids, so I guess I'll say I'll prefer Miss Betty over Miss Wanda, but I would prefer neither one of them, to be quite honest with you. But let me know y'all thoughts in the comments section below. But yeah, like I said, Stormy's scene, I really wasn't paying attention, and there's no shade to Stormy. I think Stormy I like her on the show. I just think her scenes in this episode were very, very boring, and I really could have done without them. I am so ready for Love and Marriage Huntsville to wrap on up, because this season is literally the last season for me, you guys. I've said that before, but I'm really solidified on that season 6 of Love and Marriage Huntsville is going to be a wrap for me. Please, for the love of God, just don't let it be a 20-episode season. We're already on episode number 12, so I'm wondering if it's going to, oh God. I was thinking that they were going to take a mid-season break, but there's another episode next week, so I'm guessing Love and Marriage Huntsville is going to be the lead-in to Love and Marriage Detroit. Speaking of which, when is Love and Marriage DC coming back? Because I know that they've already finished filming season 2B of Love and Marriage DC, and they've also finished filming their interviews. So when is the back half of season 2 coming? That's another thing. When it comes to reality TV shows, like, I don't like that we're doing that a lot with a lot of reality shows where they'll, like with Basketball Wives and Black Ink Crew Los Angeles. I don't like that we're doing that kind of stuff where there's a season 2B and season 1B and 2B. Like, I don't like that kind of stuff. But let's pause here and move forward, you guys. All right, you guys, so next up, Martell. We see Martell. So he went to go see his new therapist, who is not Dr. Francis. I was like, I prefer Dr. Francis, but this lady right here, okay, cool. Now, I never saw anybody walk into their therapist's office or home or wherever and just give them an old church hug. Granted, it was a church hug, but I was like, that just seems a little bit inappropriate. I would think handshake, But this ain't got nothing to do with me, right? So, Martell is in therapy because with the kids, Melody put the kids in therapy, and the judge felt like Martell could benefit from therapy. I think Martell and Melody both could benefit from therapy. Martell more than anybody. So, Martell is talking to the therapist. You know, he's telling her when he was talking about the fact that his babysitter canceled on him and how he felt about that. I'm like, so you are a control freak, right? Because when you listen to Martell, it's like it's either his way or the highway, right? Where he was talking about how he got mad at his mom, and I'm like, so you can do whatever you want to other people, but be damned if they do anything to you. That's a problem that you need to check with yourself, right? He did talk about his relationship with his dad and how he feels like people who say they have father issues, it's a cop out. I don't necessarily know if I would call those cop outs. It's not a cop out. There are a lot of people who have internalized mommy and daddy issues, right? And that's not a cop out. What is a cop out is if someone like yourself who does have issues, right? They go and talk to a therapist or whatnot, right? A therapist, a psychiatrist, whatever, and they're trying to work and they work through those issues, but then they continue to make the same mistakes that they were making previously. Then you can no longer blame it on that, because that will then be a cop out. It'll be like, well, how can you say that when you did this and this and this and that, to try to figure out what the root cause of it was? That's a cop out, right? The other thing that I found interesting through this therapy section is we found out that Martell has a little brother named Montez. I was like, oh, very interesting. He's a brother. Okay. And he's older by 5 years. Cool. So we see Martell. So Martell has invited his little brother Montez over to his house, right? So he tells us that Montez has just recently paroled out of prison. And when Martell was talking, I was like, okay, I think he might have went to jail for drugs, because Martell was talking about how, because this is something that I always say too when I think about people who sell drugs, right? They're very smart in business. They are very good businessmen and women who deal with drugs, but they go the illegal route instead of going the legal route, owning a business, having products and whatnot, legitimate products, right? So yeah, his brother also recently got married. So, Martell told him about the Black Business Expo. Shout out to Tisha for that one. And I don't know if he was telling him to come to the Black Business Expo to get some, tips and tools from them. I know that the brother said he's working at FedEx. Now, when they started talking about marriage, I was like, Montez, if you know your brother's history, I would just simply say, don't take his motherfucking advice. Look at his life. Do you want to emulate that? If the answer is yes, go for it. But I hope the answer is a fucking hell to the nah. Nigga, nah. Nigga, no. I wouldn't take any advice from him, right? I know that Montez said, he hasn't saw Melody in some years. He made a joke about the diss track that Melody made. I don't give a fuck. Let's pause here and move forward and wrap up this episode, you guys. All right, you guys. So next up, Kimmy and Maurice. Maurice, it's so interesting watching Love and Marriage Huntsville in the beginning, season 1 and 2, and finding out that Maurice and Marceau are brothers, right? I always said it back in the earlier seasons when I was watching that Maurice was a lot different than Marceau. No, he's not. Maurice and Marceau are literally the same person, right? Maurice, Marceau, and that other one, they are, to me, they're very much alike, right? I think what it is with Maurice, at first, while we couldn't see it, is because he disguised his stuff. Like the shit, Marceau is very vocal and outwardly about how he is, right? Maurice, he disguises it. He masks it very well, right? So we see Maurice and Kimmy, they're having a double date with Marceau and Letitia, right? And they're doing a wine and paint, right? So I thought they were actually doing like one of those sip and paints, because I've actually been to one of them. I've been to 2. So, the one, not the ones where you're painting a naked person, the one where you're actually painting something, right? Because excuse me, y'all. Y'all saw the first one that I did, the second one that I did. The first one is gone, never want to see it again in my life, right? But what was I saying? Oh yeah, so they're actually doing wine glasses. I was like, oh, that is really cool. Like that is something that I would like to do. I would like to something that I would like to do is that and some clay. I've always wanted to mold clay. I've always wanted to do that, right? So honestly, when it comes to Maurice and Kimmy, I don't know how she puts up with that man, right? Because like I said, he's much like his brother. He was just more subtle with how he is, right? But he feels like, I guess he feels like cleaning is Kimmy's job. And she was like, bruh, you can stand to do something too and let Monster see. First of all, I really want them to stop calling that boy Monster. Can we call him Junior, Maurice Junior, Mo, something? I don't know what the hell we got to call him, but god dang, Monster is just not a good look for a young black boy. Like, I just don't like them calling him Monster at all. So, and it's so interesting when you look at Maurice, right? When you look at Maurice, it's almost as if Maurice wants to say that Kimmy, because and that's exactly what he's saying, that Kimmy, it's like he's trying to say, Kimmy is afraid to be a disciplinarian to Maurice Jr. And it's not that. I know what it is with Kimmy, and I get where she's coming from. Kimmy is a step parent, so she's not his mom or dad, right? So she doesn't necessarily, she's okay with, being that disciplinarian to him, right? But she would prefer for it to be his father, right? So and she also would prefer that his father, if his father sees that he's not necessarily doing what Kimmy says, that he comes in and reinforces what she says. That's the issue that I think that she has. It's the fact that she doesn't feel like he has her back and reinforces what she says to Maurice Jr. in the first place, right? So then the next scene that we have is we see as Maurice, Kiowa, and Kimmy are sitting down with Maurice Jr., right? So, Maurice had him tell Kiowa about the boot camp, right? So they get up at 5 a.m. and they do chores. Now, here's my issue with that. I got what Kiowa was saying. With the boot camp, I get some aspects of it, some aspects I don't, right? With the boot camp, I get the aspect of let's get him into a pattern and into a routine. That's fine. But the drill sergeant aspect of it, some people are receptive to that, others aren't. Others, like when it comes to parenting your kids, you have to realize how your children are, how receptive or non-receptive your kids are to certain things. And when Monster they were talking to him, right? And they were talking about the chores. Kiowa said something about the boot camp, right? She feels like it needs to be adjusted and that there are some things that can be done to help with the chores. And she said, but that's on you, talking to Maurice Jr., which absolutely it is on him. And what I would say is maybe give some incentives. I know that once you get out on your own, there's really no true incentive when it comes to cooking and cleaning. Actually, there still is an incentive. Me as an adult, me cleaning, doing my dishes, me cleaning my apartment, me washing my clothes. The incentive is everything is clean and there's nothing dirty. Like I have stuff to eat off of. I have food to eat. I have a clean place to sit. So there are incentives. So why not incentivize him? That's one thing, right? So at the same time, I was listening to Maurice talk to him, and he was talking about how his face was, number one, he's a teenager. So I don't know what Maurice was expecting for him to say when y'all were giving him tips and tools Was Maurice expecting like, okay, I hear you, Dad. I hear you, Mom. I hear you, Kimmy. Like, what was he expecting that young man to do? He's a teenager. Teenagers hear you, but they're. I remember me as a teenager when my mom used to talk to me. She would say stuff to me. I would be listening to her, but it's just like, okay, I hear you. I hear you, right? I can hear you, but can we talk about something? Can we move on? But then, like I said, with Maurice, it feels as if Maurice beats up on him, and I don't think he realizes that, because at one point he wants to talk about the fact that Kiowa babies Maurice Jr. and she says nurtured him, right? I'm okay with that, right? But like Kimmy said in her interview with the producers, maybe there's an in between, whereas maybe we don't baby him, but we don't be drill sergeant with him. So we can nurture him, but we can also be. They have to mix. The two have to mix, and Maurice is missing that. Then when they were talking about the fact that, you know, he misses his mom, obviously so. He's our only child. I'm pretty sure he's a mama's boy, so obviously the young man misses his mom. He just doesn't vocalize that, right? So they were talking about the fact that, you know, Maurice needs to spend more time with him. Maurice says, well, I do spend time with him when I take him to school and pick him up from school. That is not spending time with that boy. Like, you need to sit down with your son. Go to the batting cages. Go golfing. Go out to eat. Once you pick him up from school, say, hey, Maurice Jr., because I'm not calling that boy Monster. What do you want? What do you want for dinner? Like, it's just me. It's just dad and the son tonight. What do you want to do? And, you know, hell, even bring in Kimmy. But find some time, carve out some time, even on the weekend. Like, just say, hey, let's go to a movie. Let's go to the park. Let's do something. But you're not really actively spending time with your son. If you're saying that me taking him to school in the morning and me picking him up from school in the afternoon, that is not spending time with that boy. You're not. I'm not saying that you're neglecting him, but I'm also saying that's not quality time with that young man. So, Kiowa and Maurice Jr., they went out to dinner, and you know they were talking. So he does miss it. Like I said, he misses his mom, obviously. So right, and he doesn't talk. You know, she was like, "You need to talk to somebody." He said he has people to talk to. He just doesn't want to. And I think that might also just come with being a teenager, right? I think that's also part of being a teenager. Because with my mom, I didn't talk. The way they talk about him, I stayed in my room a whole lot too when I was a teenager. I would come out, but I spent I spent a whole lot of time in my teenage years locked up in my room. But hey, it is what it is, right? But Kiowa says, do you want me to come down and spend more time with you? He says, yes. She said, how often? He said, as often as your schedule will permit, right? So then we move back over to Maurice and Kimmy. So Kimmy is suggesting that they do family therapy, and I agree with that. But Kimmy's thing at first is like, before it's all of his parents, you know, her and Maurice and Kiowa and Zave, right? Before all of them get together for family therapy, she feels as if it should be Maurice, Kiowa, and Maurice Jr. And I absolutely agree with that, right? Here's where I have an issue with, and it's not with Kimmy, it's with Maurice. Maurice always, like, I feel like Maurice wants to be a savior when it comes to this relationship with Kimmy and Kiowa. When you see them sitting down with each other, Kimmy and Kiowa are on each other. They agree a lot more than they do with Maurice. Kimmy and Kiowa were agreeing with everything that each other. Kimmy agreed with Kiowa. Kiowa agreed with Kimmy, right? And I feel like when it comes to Maurice, I feel like Maurice wants there to be such a big issue with how him and Kimmy got together, so that way, you know, he can say, you know, there was an issue between my wife and my ex-wife, and I came in and I facilitated peace with both of those women. That's the vibe that it gives to me. That's always what I've gotten from Maurice. But that's the episode, you guys. It wasn't really a whole lot. It was pretty much a filler episode to me, if you ask me. But let me know what you guys thought about it down in the comment section below, you guys. Please subscribe to the channel, turn your post notifications on, and share the video, you guys. And until the next time, please stay safe, Take care of yourselves, wash your hands, be blessed, and I'll see you guys in the next one. So if you guys did not watch my live earlier this morning for Love and Marriage Detroit, go watch that. I told you guys what's coming up on the channel, so you guys know that tonight is the BET Awards. You guys know we review the BET Awards every year, so this year is no different, although I don't know who the hell is hosting this simulcast, but and I know it's going to be 3 hours long. Pray for me. But yeah, the BET Awards review will be up a few hours. So if it goes off at 10 o'clock tonight, like I'm hoping, if it goes off at the normal time instead of going off later, like 10:30 and 11, it'll be up before midnight. If it goes off any later than that, oh God, it'll be up tonight. It'll be up early in the morning. But Real Housewives of Atlanta, you guys will see that tomorrow afternoon, as well as Summer House, Martha's Vineyard. Those will both be up tomorrow afternoon. But I'll see you guys later. Bye, guys.